I regard this as one of the best kept secrets from Indian restaurants, and one of the reasons why home cooking never tastes like Indian restaurant cooking. It isn't really an intentional deception on the part of the restaurant. It's rather a necessity because they cannot make up curries for 9 different levels of heat from super mild to super hot. So what do? They mix up one very mild one and then they add more chilies when they reheat it for the actual customer. But because of the nature of Indian food, they can't just add raw chili powder. That would not taste good. They have to have cooked chilies, so they do that separately, and that's exactly what I'm going to show you here. Different restaurants have slightly different formulas. This is the one that I like, and I'm also scaling it down for home use because you don't need a gallon of this. So I've got about 50 grams of chilies, 1 shallot that's peeled, some salt, some cumin, and in the pot heating up right now is 150 grams of oil. The idea of this is just that you're not adding raw spice to a finished dish. It's just not done in Indian food. So, and Mexican food's a little bit more tolerant of that kind of thing. They don't mind putting raw chilies in at the end, but Indian food, they want everything to be cooked properly. So this is going to cook at a low heat. After you've added the chilies and the shallots, they add about a teaspoon or so of salt to it. This will help it break down. And I'm just going to simmer it at a low heat for a little bit. On a 1 to 10 scale, I've got this on a 4, and this should be just over 100. Yeah, it's right around the boiling point of water. You want to maintain it right around 100 degrees for a while, because you want to drive off the water, but you don't want to singe the chilies. After about 5 minutes, I've lowered the heat down from 4 to 3. Because as the water leaves here, it's going to start wanting to get even hotter. So it's up to 105 now Celsius, even though I've lowered the heat down. When you get rid of a lot of the water, now the oil starts to predominate, and the oil can get a lot hotter than water. Water can't get it hotter than 100 degrees, but you've got a mixture going on here. It's been about 10 minutes now. The heat's going to be even higher, I'm sure. It's, yeah, we're up to 110, 115 now. You don't really need to check it, just go by the time. Now I'm going to add cumin seeds to this, a teaspoon or so, and a little bit of paprika. This is partly for color, a little bit for flavor. Just going to help round it out, give it a little bit more complexity. And I'm just going to cook this for like 2 or 3 more minutes, and then I'm going to add the vinegar. Okay, now I'm going to, in another couple minutes, I'm going to kill the heat completely, and I'm going to add that tablespoon of malt vinegar. If you can't get malt vinegar, you can use sherry vinegar. Malt vinegar is better. I'm just going to stir this for another couple of minutes, evaporate off a lot of liquid from the vinegar, and let it cool down at the same time. I turned the heat off, but it's still on the burner, which is obviously has some residual heat in it. So I'm just going to stand here stirring this for about a minute. Yeah, I guess it's actually been more like 2 minutes here. When you first add this, it has quite a terrible aroma, and acrid and foul tasting, foul smelling, and you need to stir it until you get past that, until it smells more like a Thai fish sauce. And if you just bottle it up, then that taste will end up being in your final food. This is the only time you can really get rid of it. So this converts it. This stirring during this time is an important step. You can't skip this. You know, stir it until it gets closer to room temperature, then it'll have a nice aroma instead of a acrid one. Now, if you're working in a restaurant, or you can do the same thing at home, and you want, for instance, the lamb bhuna recipe that I have up there, you heat up some water in a skillet, you add whatever portion of the lamb that you want. You can make a small portion since you're reheating it essentially, and Now you've got your chili oil, and if you want something very mild, just leave it the way it is, don't add anything. If you want something hotter, or a customer orders something hotter, you add more of this. How much you add? Well, you'll have to do it a few times to discover how much equals what heat, and everybody's personal taste is different. And add a teaspoon for half a portion, couple teaspoons. It'll be hot. You add a lot of it, it'll be really hot. Also look for my cocktail book, Cocktails of the South Pacific and Beyond, Advanced Mixology, available through Amazon online.